Hi guys, this is Vidas and welcome to another training for today. In this video I will teach you how to create a simple yet effective chorale Fuguette based on Nearer My God to Thee, very famous and popular hymn. I just played it for you. It's very beautiful music by Lowell Mason, and we will create this Fuguette almost entirely with manuals only, almost without pedals. It's very accessible, and you will see that you could do this also. So it's based on models that Johann Pachelbel wrote in Baroque times, or Johann Christoph Bach, for example. He wrote a collection of 44 chorales zum Präambulieren. It was German term Präambulieren, maybe making preambles. But all of the preambles in those days were basically fugal compositions in one way or another, imitative counterpoint. So in that collection there are many 44 examples, beautiful examples of short chorale preludes, chorale, even fuguettes. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. All right. So the first thing to do is obviously to set up a theme for the Fuguette, because the hymn is quite extensive, long, and we don't want to play entire melody of the hymn as the theme. It would be too boring. So we would need probably just a simple phrase or two. Let's see. Let me play the first phrase and decide. We have here 4 measures, right? And that could be quite enough for a simple Fuguette. It's in F major, so our Fuguette will be also in F major. Very simple setup. And yes, let's settle this once and for all. 4 measure theme, the subject, right? What's next? Once we decided about the subject, let's think about the meter. Meter is 6/4 meter. It's a little unusual for a Fuguette to have this triple meter, but it's still perfectly acceptable. So I will not change this into a duple meter for now. Let's just focus on beautiful triple meter 6/4. Okay. So what else do chorale Fuguettes have in common? They have theme, they have counterpoint, they have a few entries of the subject in various voices, and sometimes at the tonic level and sometimes at the dominant level, first scale degree or the fifth scale degree. We'll see that later on. And then towards the end, it has an interesting pedal point, usually in the pedals or in the lowest voice with the pinky finger. You basically hold a fifth scale degree, let's say in the pedals, and play some interesting melodies around that dominant pedal point, and that creates tension. And then maybe final chorale theme harmonization, right? And in our case, this could serve as the hymn introduction, right? This kind of setup. So maybe we could finish with another line of that chorale tune, because remember, our tune is starting on the tonic note, third scale degree A, but ending on the G note. And that's not a tonic note, that's the dominant note, second scale degree. Let me play it one more time. Yes, it's like a question mark. and then the complete sentence would be ending on the tonic note. Right? And after that could be like a short plagal cadence extension, excursion to the subdominant key based on the tonic pedal point. We have a dominant pedal point, and then we'll have for the stability of the key of F major pedal point at the end. So all these elements could be combined in the beautiful yet very effective and simple chorale Fuguette. Okay. The first step obviously is to memorize the tune, the theme itself, four measure long, okay? And we'll have sometimes in the soprano and in the alto or the tenor, the middle voice, and in the bass. So let me play in both hands for you so that you could also follow me. If you're following this video, make sure you're playing also in various voices, like this. Okay, these were simple chorale Fuguette entries, subject entries at the tonic level. Then we'll have like an answer in the dominant key, and that means no longer F major but C major, right? One perfect fifth upwards. So let me play the same thing but in C major, starting with transposition. Yes, we have to transpose the simple four measure phrase into the key of C major, which means no accidentals, and starting on the third scale degree and ending on the second scale degree of C major. Here we go. Okay, we will not maybe need all of those entries, but we had to familiarize ourselves, right, with this. So it's a good first step, preliminary step to the next thing that we're going to do. It's actually to create like a plan for your Fuguette. The plan is as follows. You could start on in any hand, right hand or left hand, and probably for beginning would be easier to play with the left hand first, and I'll tell you why. Although it's possible to play with the right hand first and enter with the tonic subject and then following with the dominant answer in the left hand part. But then what happens in the right hand part is actually you have to create counterpoint on top of that chorale phrase. And this is a little more complex than the other way around. So for beginners, we always recommend starting with the lower voice first. Not the bottom voice, but the middle voice, like a tenor, or sometimes the alto if the range is permissible. Obviously, if I'm playing from the hymnal, it's in the soprano line. So if I'm transposing it one octave downward, it's going to be not alto, but tenor voice. Alto will play the answer later on in the C major key. So a tenor enters with the tonic, soprano enters with the answer, dominant key, right? And then the bass has the tonic again, right? That's called simple exposition, right? Let me play it, just the subject and answer entries for you. The last entry could be in the pedals or in the left hand part, in the bass. If it's in the bass, you have to think about the ranges. Maybe let's do it one more time. What happens if you play one octave higher? And then, did you notice my answer was a little too low for the soprano? It sounded more like alto in the lower range. So I think it's good to adjust and play one octave higher right from the start, like this. There you go. It's very now elegant. The highest note of the left hand part is A, so it's still like a very high tenor note, still possible, right? Then soprano enters with a third scale degree in C major. It's still acceptable for soprano, high E, and then the bass line enters with the subject in the tenor range, but that's already left hand bass line, the third voice. Okay, that's what we need for exposition. 3 subject entries. After that, we could expand it into counter exposition, and that works very simply and similarly, only vice versa. We start in the same voice, in the tenor voice, but on the dominant subject entry as the answer. So it would sound like this. Very, very simple. So 6 subject entries, and then we have a dominant pedal point, and then the final phrase in the soprano, probably, maybe with the extension to the second phrase as well, ending on the tonic note. All right, and that's it. Maybe we'll add a tonic pedal point at the end on the note F, and that will be our Fuguette. We just need a little bit more practice, okay? I will demonstrate in one voice everything now, how it will sound. The first voice is very beautiful and very simple to play. Anybody can do one voice. That's your cue to practice, right? So these were entries and subject and answer entries in one voice, right? You heard me play long notes. All of a sudden, what does it mean? These were simple pedal points. First on the note C as a dominant pedal point, and then on the note finally F as the tonic pedal point. Dominant point creates tension and prepares for the ending, like the last entry of the subject or the last set of the subjects in a larger composition. And tonic pedal point just creates like a resolution, right? And creates closure basically, because we are playing the note F, and on top of that we are emphasizing subdominant key, which is kind of softer, B flat major in this case, right? With 2 flats, and then finally creating the final cadence in F major. That's entire plan, okay? But that was only one voice. Next step is actually to slow down, and start playing 2 voice counterpoint. The same subject entries, subject, answer, subject, answer, subject, answer, but now we'll have 2 voice note against note counterpoint, and I will use simple sounding beautiful intervals of major and minor thirds, major and minor sixths, perfect fifths and perfect octaves, except I don't have to, I have to avoid parallel fifths and parallel octaves. I could do parallel sixths and thirds, they're fine, but fifths and octaves are not fine in this kind of music. So very simple rules. And most of the time, I will aim for contrary motion. Whenever my melody will go up, my counterpoint will go down. Where my counterpoint will go up, my melody will go down, and vice versa. Okay? But note against note. One melody note equals one note of the counterpoint. Let's see what happens. So my right hand will enter on another basically a key in C major as the answer, but below that I will create note against note counterpoint, right? Oh, I have to play one octave higher, correct? Okay, one more time. So these were subject entries, basically in tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant. That's all I did, and I supplied note against note counterpoint below or above the melody, basically. Okay. What happens if I add some notes, a little bit of fluency around those notes? It's no longer note against note, but could be like a mixed counterpoint. Always aiming for perfect fifths and octaves in contrary motion, and major and minor thirds and sixths in parallel or contrary motion as well. Let's see what happens. Did you notice it's already getting similar to two-voice fugal entries, right? But we need one more voice to create perfect harmonies. When we'll create a third voice, then each note on the melody will have a chord. And to have a chord, you have to have at least 3 notes, and at least one note of them would have to have a third, major or minor third. For example, in F major, tonic chord should be F, A, C, and most of the time we will have that. But sometimes if the chord is incomplete, at least we have to aim to have a, like a major third on top of that. So F to A. And then we could double F again. It'd still be considered a nice tonic chord, even though it's incomplete, like this. Complete chord would be this, F, A, C. But if it doesn't have a fifth scale degree, it's still possible to have a chord if you double the root of the chord, F, and have a third also, F, A, F, like this. Okay, so let's add that third voice now. I think for now it's note against note to keep it simple. But that will happen only after second subject entry, after the answer. So tenor enters first in the tonic, then soprano enters with the answer in the dominant. We have 2 voices now, and then the bass enters with the tonic again, 1 octave lower, and then we'll have 3 voices. Let's see. Perfect harmony in those 3 voices. Okay, it's not over. Not everything is now played, but you have to understand we're doing it in segments, right? So after this, we'll have 3 more entries in the dominant, in the tonic, and in the dominant again. So tenor, soprano, and bass. And to have a nice Fuguette, we have to remember to keep some of the voices silent also. Before entering, the second voice, soprano, with the answer, is silent, right? It's only one hand, one voice before that, right? Whenever you have 3 voices, afterwards, bass line enters with the tonic. Before that, it was silent. We had only 2 voice counterpoint, not 3, right? And afterwards, when we have counter exposition with the dominant entry in the answer in the tenor voice, right? A little bit before that, one or two notes or one or two measures maybe, our tenor voice, the same voice that will enter, have to be silent, like with rests, right? So it's a little bit of a skill to think ahead which voice will enter next. But with practice, you can do it. So do it really, really slowly and repeatedly. And sometimes you will hear three voices, sometimes you will hear two voices. Okay, I added three voices, sometimes two voices, and that was our exposition and counter exposition. After that, we would need a dominant pedal point in the bass, holding the note C, and on top of that, two voices will probably emphasize dominant function, basically C major chord and sometimes F major chord. Why? Because in C major, if you hold the note C, you could actually create two chords on top of that, a C major chord and F major chord, because the note C is common for both C and F major, like this. That was C major, C, E, G, and now F major, F, A, C. So you could alternate. And the last trick that I did is actually very useful. You hold the note C in the bottom and have intervals of 6 1/3 in alternation. And that will be your basically F major and C major chords, like this. Of course, we could have the same meter than before, 6/4 meter, triple meter, compound triple meter, right? So like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's already a nice and elegant dominant pedal point on the note C. And after that, we would have final set of subject entries in the soprano. Basically, what we will have like a harmonization of the tune, maybe with some intermediate notes below the tune in the soprano. And first we will play the first phrase ending on the second scale degree, and then ending on the tonic note first scale degree, like this. What happens next? The final pedal point on the note F. Like before, we hold the note F either in the bass octave or in the tenor octave, but now we emphasize subdominant function and playing two chords, F major chord and B flat major chord, because they are perfect fourth or perfect fifth apart and have one common note, which is the note F, like this, F major and B flat major. F, A, C, and B flat major will be B flat, D and F. So, alternating. Obviously, if you want to play the lower note in the bass, F, you could play with pedals. Maybe let's do that now. Interestingly, when we hold the pedal note F, it sounds like a pastoral playing with triple meter, with rocking, even Sicilian, right? Rhythmic dance rhythm like this. It sounds very beautiful. Okay, and after that you have to finish in F major. So either create authentic cadence, tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic, somewhere at the end, or keep the pedal point until the very end and finish like I did, like this. Okay, obviously you could hold the pedal note on the note C with the dominant of with your feet. That would be perfectly acceptable too. So even though this Fuguette is very simple, it's very effective, right? And let's now build it up in 3 voices and recap all the structure. First, we have the subject entry in the tenor, then the answer is entry in the soprano, then the subject entry in the pedal or the bass, then a little bit of a interlude. Yes, I didn't mention interludes. Interludes are required to connect subject and answer entries. Sometimes you end answer entry on a foreign note that you have to then come back to the tonic note, and that's where you have interludes. Basically little modulations going from C major to F major, or from F major to C major if you need to, right? So sometimes interludes are just a few notes, and sometimes it's longer because you have to travel, for example, downward quite a ways down. One good way to create an interlude is by creating a sequence. Let me show you how it goes. A sequence, it's like a melodic or rhythmic idea which is repeated upward or downward in a certain manner. So let's say we're in the key of F major, and then we need to modulate to C major. On top of that, we think that a B flat note no longer applies, and then in C major we have 0 accidentals, B natural. So I will introduce B natural at some point in the sequence. That was an example of a sequence going downward. And I introduced suspensions. You could have suspensions to emphasize dissonant notes on the downbeat, but then you have to release them and emphasize consonant sounds in stepwise motion downward. There is a little bit of rules in that, so stay tuned for future updates. Keep it simple for now. And remember, those interludes are very useful to connecting various keys and various subject and answer entries. Okay, let's see what we have here. Nearer my God to thee, and enjoy the chorale Fuguette.